Welcome to the Economist in Your Ear podcast. When an artist like Sky Isirga just explodes onto the global stage, shattering language barriers, racking up millions of streams in months, you have to ask, is that success purely a testament to his artistic genius? Or does it fundamentally prove that, the algorithm has now become the true kingmaker in global music?
That question really cuts right to the heart of this whole thing. We were talking about Chen Sukai, right? Known as Sky Isirga, a Chinese rapper from Huizhou who suddenly become this, global fixture, booking huge venues from London to Italy. It's quite something.
Yeah, and our mission today is really to look past the hype, look past those astounding headline numbers, and critically interpret the mechanisms at play here. We aren't just summarizing his career arc. We need to really dissect how this happened, maybe challenge some of the initial narratives that have built up around this rapid ascent.
And the numbers are genuinely impressive. You really have to look at the context. He raps primarily in Chinese dialects, Mandarin, Cantonese, which historically has been a major hurdle for, global mainstream reach. Plus his lyrical content. It's often described as devout instead of dirty, almost leaning towards the philosophical, not the usual hedonistic stuff. Tracks like Karma Code, Blueprint Supreme.
Right, and the success isn't just online clicks, it's translating to actual packed venues. He's currently sitting at, 4.6 million monthly listeners on Spotify.
Yeah, and that's a huge jump.
An absolutely explosive rise from about 400,000 just earlier this year.
Incredible growth.
And he's confirming shows at serious places like London's E1 Club, selling out tours across Europe, Australia. That scale, that speed.
Yeah.
It's exactly why we need to examine this whole thing closely.
Yeah, and the initial framing of the story is really critical here. It often gets presented as if Sky Isirga represents the, quote, first time Chinese music finds a wide listenership on this level.
I find that framing, a little lacking in historical context, maybe. It feels like it almost ignores a decade of groundwork laid by others. While the scale and the nature of this specific breakout might be unique for a rapper working mostly in Mandarin or Cantonese, it's definitely not the first time Asian language music has crossed borders, right?
Exactly. Look at K-pop. It has massive global dominance. That's undeniable. And we've seen artists like Rich Brian from Indonesia find huge success in the U.S. market, rapping primarily in English, but he's still an Asian artist breaking through. The real breakthrough here, I think, isn't just the language being Asian. It's this novel combination. Culturally specific Chinese dialect hooks fuse perfectly with the mechanics of the global meme economy.
Oh, okay.
That specific formula, the rhythm, the flow, that's what's traveling, maybe even more than the lyrical content itself.
Interesting. And speaking of content, let's dig into that devout, not dirty framing a bit. Because, in a Western hip-hop context, this spiritual or values-heavy tone, it definitely makes him stand out. But how unique is that tone within China's own domestic hip-hop scene?
Well, what's fascinating here is that his clean, kind of values-heavy lyrics, they aren't some rogue choice in the Chinese landscape. Not really. They're actually pretty aligned with how the domestic genre has evolved. You have to remember that pivotal moment in 2018 when the central government enforced a really significant content clamp.
Right, the censorship efforts.
Yeah, an effort to restrict content seen as overly vulgar, antisocial, or promoting lifestyles considered, detrimental, especially to young people.
So the content shifted, not just because of his personal artistic choice, maybe, but also in response to geopolitical realities, censorship within his own industry.
Precisely. The underground energy, the culture, it remained. But the tone had to adjust for mainstream visibility. Artists kept flourishing, especially in hubs like Chengdu, which is known for its hip-hop scene. But the topics often steered towards cleaner narratives, sometimes patriotism or philosophical self-improvement, stuff like that. So Sky-I's content isn't necessarily an exception to the rule over there. It's often more like an expression of the new rules, the post-clamp environment.
That really demonstrates that this whole phenomenon isn't some sudden musical anomaly popping out of nowhere. It actually comes from a deep, pretty well-developed infrastructure that, frankly, Western media often overlooks.
It really does. Chinese hip-hop has a much longer history than many people assume. It goes back to foundational underground groups like Yinseng in the late 1990s. But the real turning point, the thing that laid the groundwork for someone like Sky, was the arrival of those big mainstream TV competitions.
I remember hearing about the Rap of China. The viewing figures were huge.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. When that show launched back in 2017, the first season racked up an astounding 2.5 billion views online.
Billion? Wow.
Yeah. That exposure didn't just normalize the genre, it industrialized it in a way. By 2020, rap had cemented its place as the second most streamed genre on NetEase cloud music in China, second only to, like, mainstream Mandopop.
Okay.
So the talent pool, the technical skills, the production infrastructure, it was all mature and ready for a potential global star.
Okay, so let's unpack the mechanics of how it travels then, because this is where the algorithmic power seems, well, unavoidable. What is it about his sound, the actual production, the delivery, that acts like this universal passport?
The sonic appeal is, I think, a really masterful blend of the familiar and the fresh. He uses rhythmic elements that are instantly recognizable globally, specifically Memphis-style flows.
Memphis-style flows. Can you break that down a bit?
Sure. For listeners maybe less familiar, think of those rhythmic, often fast, repetitive, kind of sparse drum patterns, and importantly, frequently incorporating triplets in the vocal delivery. That sort of stuttering, rapid-fire rhythm. It's basically a rhythmic language that's dominated global trap and hip-hop for, well, the better part of a decade now.
Ah, okay. So he's using a globally accepted rhythmic template, makes it instantly palatable to ears in London or New York or wherever.
Exactly. And this is key, he injects that familiar structure with a very distinct regional Chinese flavor. You get these Cantonese and Hakka vibes mixed in, the street culture of Guangdong province. So it feels rhythmically comfortable, yet culturally exciting and new. And then add in his strategic use of traditional Chinese instruments sometimes in the production. He's really created something quite distinct.
He's hitting that perfect sweet spot then. Cultural novelty packaged in rhythmic familiarity. And that combination must be absolute catnip for the algorithmic gatekeepers on platforms like Spotify and YouTube.
It really is. The way platform discovery works now is fundamentally different. It's less about where music comes from, its origin, and much more about the vibe fit. If a track is dense with hooks, if it's tailored to a specific mood or energy, a fit-to-vibe track, as they say, its language barrier can essentially just vanish, a great hook matters more than the country code, basically.
Right. And the ultimate engine for capitalizing on that hook density has to be the short video platforms, right? TikTok, YouTube Shorts, that's where the meme potential is truly realized.
Oh, absolutely. This is the critical accelerant. TikTok and Shorts are perfect for converting his catchy refrains, like the lines you hear everywhere about mountains of gold and silver into these global, easily digestible memes. These platforms thrive on short, repeatable, catchy moments.
And the user-generated content waves are just staggering, aren't they?
The metrics are undeniable proof of that virality. We're talking almost 600,000 videos featuring Blueprint Supreme on TikTok alone. And another, 460,000 using stacks from all sides. This isn't just top-down marketing. This is genuine organic adoption by users abroad who are creating their own waves of content around these sounds.
And you know a piece of music has truly cracked the global code? When you hear anecdotes like the one about Roland, right? A listener in Zurich.
Yeah, the 39-year-old in Zurich.
Knows the chorus lyrics to Blueprint Supreme by heart, apparently, without speaking a word of Chinese.
Exactly.
The rhythm and the hook are doing all the heavy lifting for translation. I mean, I even tried memorizing some lyrics myself to stacks from all sides and quickly realized I was just rhythmically humming Chinese sounds. It's incredibly addictive, but it's certainly not a deep linguistic dive for the average Western listener.
And that ability to bypass the linguistic part of the brain and hit the rhythmic emotional core, that's his genius. Or perhaps the genius of the sound hitting the algorithm right. However, and this is a big however, we need to be really careful not to mistake that sheer meme reach for sustainable, deep fandom. Which leads us directly to the source material's most intriguing comparison, and where we really need to apply some critical analysis.
Ah, you're talking about those huge YouTube numbers being cited.
Yes. The article proudly notes Sky Ice God's 350 million YouTube monthly audience, and it puts that number up against figures for global household names like Eminem at 300 million, Kanye West at 150 million, Drake at 110 million.
Wait a second. If you just look at those numbers in isolation, it makes him sound like literally the biggest artist on the planet right now. Why do we need to treat that specific cross-platform comparison with, well, extreme caution?
Because we're comparing apples and much, much larger oranges. Or maybe apples and the entire orchard, including the distribution trucks. We have to clearly distinguish between the two main figures we've talked about. That 4.6 million Spotify monthly listeners and the 350 million YouTube monthly audience. The Spotify number is primarily an engagement metric. It represents people who are actively choosing to stream his music on a dedicated music platform. It's a decent proxy for, actual fandom, people seeking it out.
Okay, makes sense. And the 350 million YouTube number.
That is pure total reach. It aggregates every single touch point across all YouTube services and formats. That includes views from shorts, fan-uploaded clips using his music, his official music videos, any collaborations he's on, everything.
Right.
Think of it like a massive fishing net cast incredibly wide across the digital ocean. It signals his amazing reach, how far the sound has permeated the digital ether, but it does not necessarily translate directly into people who know all his tracks, subscribe to his channel, or, crucially, would buy a ticket to see him live.
So the YouTube number is more of a viral metric capturing the sheer scale of the digital environment, while the Spotify number is perhaps a better indicator of core loyalty and actual engagement. If we focus too much on that massive 350 million figure, it kind of creates a metric mirage that could lead to inflated expectations for his long-term career sustainability.
Absolutely. And that tension, that gap between the huge reach and the relatively smaller, though still growing engagement, that leads us directly to the question of sustainability. What are the major risks inherent in a career trajectory driven primarily by this kind of viral meme-based success?
Well, the primary danger has to be one-hook fatigue, right? If your success is mainly built on one or two incredibly addictive, repeatable choruses that work perfectly as memes, the audience might just move on quickly unless the next projects are equally hook-dense or offer something more diverse. And the metric mirage we just talked about is the secondary risk. If promoters are booking him into huge venues based on that inflated YouTube reach, but his actual engaged audience, the ones who buy tickets, can only fill a club, those bigger bookings might dry up fast.
Those are definitely the undeniable risks. However, we also have to balance them against some pretty powerful tailwinds that suggest he might have more durability. First and foremost is the confirmed live market proof. You mentioned the E1 Club show.
Yeah, and the Esplanade in Singapore.
Exactly. Booking and actually selling out real club and theater dates. That's still the gold standard in music. It proves that the viral awareness is successfully converting, at least to some extent, into paying traveling fans, people willing to show up.
That live conversion really is the true differentiator, isn't it? Between just a flash-in-the-pan meme artist and an actual touring musician building a career.
And second, don't underestimate the depth of that Chinese scene we talked about. It acts as this enormous structural tailwind for him. He isn't starting his career from absolutely nothing in a vacuum. He has a mature ecosystem back home, providing infrastructure, high-quality producers to work with, potential collaborators, established stages to perform on. That ensures a steady stream of material and support that a completely independent viral artist popping up out of nowhere often lacks.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. So for listeners who are intrigued by this and want to track whether Sky, Eyes Your God, achieves that durable long-term success, what are the key indicators we should be looking out for over, say, the next 18 months or so?
Okay, first, I'd say pay close attention to his collaboration choices. If he and his team are smart, they'll look to lock in credibility outside of just the pure meme lane. So watch for features, especially maybe from US South or Memphis artists, given his flow style. That would make sense sonically. Or alternatively, watch if he focuses more on Pan-Asia connections first, solidifying his regional dominance before making another big push into the West.
Okay, collaborations. What else?
And critically, watch his tour geography and specifically the size of the venues he plays. If he successfully makes the jump from these current mid-sized clubs in Europe to larger theaters, say venues holding maybe 2,000 to 5,000 people, and does that consistently in North America or Europe, that would confirm the metric mirage has been largely overcome. That venue size escalation is the real tangible metric of sustained fan loyalty and actual buying power.
Got it. Venue size is key.
Ultimately, the synthesizing thought here, I think, is that the story of Sky Eyes Your God is far less about, wow, shock, a Chinese rapper went global.
Yeah.
And much more a confirmation that the platforms, the algorithms finally met the perfect sound for this moment. A sound that is incredibly hook-dense, culturally specific enough to be interesting, yet rhythmically accessible enough to travel, and just fundamentally tuned for immediate short video virality.
So the breakthrough is maybe less about overcoming a language barrier and more about hitting the right tempo, the right rhythm for the algorithm. Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you, the listener. Does the language barrier for global music truly exist in the same way anymore? Or has the global algorithm effectively made rhythm, vibe, and meme potential the new universal translator, allowing us to memorize, even sing along to, lyrics we don't remotely understand?
It's a fascinating question. We might genuinely be entering an era where linguistic fluency is becoming less important for global musical success than sheer rhythmic magnetism and meme ability.
Something to think about. Thanks for listening. Follow us for daily insights into world affairs, and don't forget to like, comment, and share.